Hope everybody out there's doing great. And as always, we should start off with just a snippet of music because you can only get away with so much. But here we go.
I knew I loved you before I met you. I think I dreamed you into life. I knew I loved you before I met you.
Alrighty. That, of course, is Savage Garden doing I Knew I Loved You. It's right here on Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's doing good. Hello, everybody, or anyone that actually is there. Hi, all. Might as well start typing stuff, too. So anyway, yeah, we're doing this differently. It's my first time doing it live like this, so I'm not sure if it even works properly, but we're giving it a go. So anyway, talking about dating others and the whole concept with your specific somebody, right? And if we get a lot of those times in our lives where we start walking down that road, we've been trying to manifest our specific person, right? We've been trying to get them involved. Hello. Trying to get that whole manifestation created, right? And we spend all this time and we're all this energy and we're doing this imagining from, and we're using this, all the different techniques that are out there. And we're trying to keep our energies in line and we're trying to just stay on top of the big game, right? And then all of a sudden, something kind of pops up in our world, the possibility of us dating somebody else. And there's always the possibility of somebody else dating somebody else as well. And I'm going to cover both of these real quick, and then we're going to get into sort of a question answer kind of stuff. But the whole concept of dating another person, one of the things that comes out of that is you have the ability to change your focus. You change your focus onto something else for a little while, and sometimes that actually is enough to make something happen. Again, we can get it in our own way so often sometimes by pulling up the handbrake, as we frequently talk about. A lot of the times it's just by the way we're thinking, by the way we're focusing on it so much, and the struggling thoughts we'll end up having from time to time. Sometimes the very nature of not thinking about something for a period of time is more powerful because it keeps you from focusing poorly. I'm just dropping stuff behind. This is awesome. Anyways, these concepts are really important. This is so wonderful. Being live is always much more enjoyable because then every mistake I make is going to be out there. It's fantastic. So when we date others, some of the things that can come from that, by the way, dating other people gives you perspective. A lot of times we're very interested in a specific somebody, and that's awesome. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. I'm not saying they're not the perfect choice. I'm not saying that they're all that should ever be and there should be no more. But I am saying there's going to be times where maybe you're a little scared, a little frightened, a little worried, and you aren't really sure if this is the right choice to go. Sometimes by dating that other person, you get that experience. You kind of get that perspective. You may truly understand why you like your specific person so much more. You might even find that maybe this is some extra understanding of love that you would like your specific person maybe to share and have. Like you found something that's really nice and interesting. Now, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, maybe it's short term, maybe it lasts. Who knows? But dating others isn't necessarily going to ruin what you're trying to manifest. Again, we can always change our minds. But one thing I'm fond of, so long as you're not necessarily hurting anybody, crossing lines, you shouldn't. But, getting another experience is always good because extra experiences around things creates wisdom about it, creates a knowing from within yourself. And it can be life-changing. It can be a game changer. It makes you either more resilient. You're like, oh, no, I definitely know he's the one, right? Done. Or that you get that moment where, well, I don't know. We'll see. And sometimes our higher selves are who knows what they're trying to tell us? I don't know what's right in all cases. So, unfortunately, most of the things I talk about, I don't see life as black and white. There's always different ranges. It depends where you're at in this whole concept. And for some people, maybe it's after, eons of trying to manifest. So who knows? But when others date others, one thing that's kind of interesting about that as well is a lot of times they gain perspective. A lot of times by dating somebody that is totally different, a lot of times it makes you appreciate what you really had. I had a friend that shared something with me one time. And he said, if you lined everybody up around a big hole, right? And he said, all right, everybody, you're allowed to throw all your problems into the hole. And everybody takes all their problems and they wad them up in a ball and they chuck them out into the hole. And boom, problems are gone. Hallelujah. I am done. All right. And then they go, all right, now here's the thing. You got to go ahead and grab someone else's problems. You got to go out there. You can have whatever problems you want. Whatever problems are out there, you got to have problems. Everyone's got problems. You're okay to throw yours away, but go ahead and grab your problems. And you go out there and you look around and you stare at other problems. You're just looking around and you're like, well, I'm going to take my problems back. Thank you very much. Because when I look at some of the other people, it's crazy, right? So again, other people's problems can cause their own understandings of life and how things should work out. So again, these things can be very beneficial for really enhancing that love that you desire and experience. So when you do spend time with other people, maybe in a friendly way, maybe the dating is just you guys having coffee and never really anything intimate, right? I'm not saying anything like that, but by the nature of experiencing another person without guilt. I mean, if you're not dating someone else, if your SP is, sort of more of a figment of your imagination at the moment, loosely, I'm just playing with the term, but if they're not quite there yet, then that's sort of a different story when it comes down to that long-term, whether you're cheating or not, right? So spending a little time with others, trying to get that perspective, trying to get that understanding will go a long way in creating a larger strength within us. It's that knowing within us that helps with the mind shatter. That's kind of my whole point to this is when we finally open up ourselves, finally acknowledge there's bigger aspects to this, finally can stop thinking about it for a moment, or finally can really define what it is that we truly desire in a relationship. When we can finally do that, it is such a resolve within us that's where that mind chatter kind of stops. And it kind of helps you keep moving in the right direction. So it's a very powerful concept. And one thing I want to say, and this is just my perspective, like a good analogy for perspective, right? I don't know if any of you out there, hopefully you have, hopefully this analogy works for a large enough number of people, but the difference between instant mashed potatoes versus real mashed potatoes. And so I grew up on instant mashed potatoes, and those were good. That was great. Throw a little slab of butter on there, some gravy, maybe instant mashed potatoes. All right, man, I like them. Let's do this. They're easy to make too. Just hot water and you pour in powder and boo, you got mashed potatoes. Then one day I learned how you just take those little, especially the potatoes, you don't even have to peel, right? And you boil those, right? And you get them so they get kind of soft, and you throw in a little butter, a little bit of milk, and you stir it all up, maybe some garlic if you're really smart, right? And you stir it all up and you eat those. And then you compare that to instant mashed potatoes. Oh my goodness, what a difference that is. And sometimes that's what that experience is. That's kind of my little final point. All right. Now, I'm curious if any of you, it's cool, some of the names. I finally have a chance to stare at the screen, because if I look too much at the screen, and for anyone that just wanted to hear the first part, that was pretty much it. Now, questions and answers, man. Hi, all you all. Hello. Some very familiar names out here. Fanny's LOA is here. That's fantastic. Monica, nice to see you as well. Nina, of course. Crazy manifestors out there. I'm expecting some awesome questions. And we got recruiting maven. Hola, Dan. Appreciate your channel. Look at that. I always get jealous, or not jealous, embarrassed when I read nice stuff. Thank you. You're super awesome too. I really, really appreciate that. So if any of you have questions, I would be fun to, maybe answer some stuff here live. But again, kind of the whole concept around, I think, life in general is the experiencing what's out there, experiencing different choices, different realities. A lot of people think once you've made a choice, I can't choose slightly different tomorrow, right? Unless major game changer avenues have changed in your life. Kids tend to do stuff like that, right? They tend to alter choices that we maybe once had, but those things are all part of the game, right? It's all a very exciting part of the game, is that experiencing and knowing the different things. And as we are able to have more and more experiences, you are able to finally, piece together a larger puzzle, if you will. And that's where that really helps on the imagining. I've even heard people say, it's hard to imagine. Well, it can be. But when you get more and more experience, it really helps you kind of build in that. And I guess one thing I've thought of too, it's sort of the difference. And I think all of us can relate to this one, because probably a lot of us have heard it. But it's like when a little child, well, they're probably bigger than this, but when a little child falls in love for the first time, so many people say, that's not really love, right? They tell this little child what they're experiencing isn't really love, because as an older person, your concept of love has, of course, drastically changed. But as a young child, one this big, like a trophy, they pose for trophies, right? That person, he or she is whatever I was talking about. Right. That's they get minimized. I'm sorry. They feel like whatever they're feeling isn't real. And the reality of it is at that moment, they love them as much as they possibly can. That sort of spilled all over myself there, but hey, it's fun. If a person is super sensitive, how does the LOA get affected? Mixed it's a jumble sometimes. Makes sense. Super sensitive from the standpoint of spirituality, like you pick up on stuff, or sensitive in the sense of I have my emotions are affected easily. I'm both, by the way, so it's a lot of fun. But that being said, I guess slightly to answer to a couple of those questions. Law of attraction is great. I think sensitivity actually plays a larger role. The more sensitive we are, the more capable we are of getting into the mindset, the feeling, the mood. I think it gives us that extra depth. I know artists have had a larger sense of like what sensitivity is. I kind of get it into the sixth sense. All those things kind of come into play. It's that feel to it. And I think that aspect of it can make your experience with law of attraction better. Kind of helps you fine tune, I think, your velocity sometimes. Now, again, whether we doubt and all that stuff, I still think that comes down to belief. We have self-worth issues that'll come into play, right? A lot of those things will cause doubt and create difficulties in all that. I hope that sort of gets there. Dan, how do you let go of codependency or addictions to people? Well, first and foremost, I am not a psychologist. I don't even play one on TV. So anything I say is just going to be kind of should be taken with a grain of salt. All right. But codependency, definitely have been in relationships where there is a codependency happening. And really, when you continue that behavior, that's what that means by codependency for those that don't understand that. So I've got a bad behavior. They keep fussing. And then because of that, I give in and give them what they want. As a really simple example, there's lots of ways this manifests, but a real simple example, right? I give them what they want because they fuss a certain way. And because of that, they know that all they got to do is do that. And you know this is a wrong behavior. Like I am rewarding them for doing a bad thing. This is not good. I shouldn't be doing this. Continuing to do it because you don't want to hurt their feelings, because you don't want to take away that thing they keep wanting, and you don't want to listen to them cry. I'm just thinking of children mostly at this moment, but there's, again, a lot of ways this manifests. But when I don't want to listen to it anymore, I mean, that's the thing. It's like at some point you've got to break that. At some point you've got to just go, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. But in the big picture, in the end, it teaches a better sense of reality, a better sense of life. I mean, it shouldn't just be like I behave poorly to get what I want. We should have a discussion at least, but there's certain structures that are best to follow. That's kind of where I'm at with it. The person is super sensitive as, yes. Okay. Did that one. Fanny's LOA. There you are. Ugh, connections keep dropping. Uh-oh. All right. She's not really saying, hi, this is Iris G. My SP told me 2 months ago, he will be happy to tell me when he's ready to date. Last week I saw him on a dating website. What do I do? Well, again, this is going to kind of go down that avenue. Dating websites in my mind are, I mean, I know a lot of people, they've worked for a lot of people, whatever. I guess some of the statistics disagree with some of those beliefs about dating websites, but people do meet each other, and there's an interesting sort of group of people that you will get. So, again, if they need another experience to understand, that's what I was talking about. You probably weren't there, maybe, I don't know, but the difference between instant mashed potatoes and the actual homemade ones with real potatoes, right? If you're the real potatoes, and you probably are, right? I would assume so. Anyways, you're the real potatoes, and they're dating instant mashed potatoes. They're going to be like, oh my God, this is, it's not even the same thing. So again, from that standpoint, just keep envisioning what you'd like. This is part of that experience. I'm sure they need to round out what their understanding of things are, and then it should hopefully get better. All right, Chris Frazzi, and hi to everybody. Oh, Tina Monic, nice. Just caught this at the end. Can't wait to go back and watch. Totally cool. I love that. If you're trying to manifest SP, what should you date around? Well, dating around is kind of a different story in my mind, Chris. I'm just gonna throw a little qualifier on it. I mean, if you're very serious about a specific person and you truly, really love them from a very deep standpoint, that's cool. Like, I don't know, dating 1, 2. I'm just thinking out loud here, so it's on the fly. But 1, 2, 3, all right. But dating around kind of got a little bit of a sound to it of like I've got a different girl every other night or whatever. So I'm not saying you're like that. Don't get me wrong. This is not anything, but I'm just trying to clarify my answer or put it in context, if you will. So I think dating other people can be a benefit. I think it's not necessarily right for everybody. If you're early on in the situation, I don't know. If it's a breakup, I mean, there's factors that come into play. So it really depends on where you're at with this process, right? If you've never experienced a person and this is the only one, I don't know, dating around may really change your whole perspective. So depends what you're trying to do, but that might not be the best thing. Maybe you should stay with the law of attraction for really put all your eggs in that basket. Alrighty, Monica. Monica? Monica? I don't know. I'm probably saying it wrong because it's over the O and I'm retarded. I'm an American. You know this. You guys, I really enjoy you guys even caring as much as you do. All right, Dan, I have a situation where I will be. I'd like to hear your thoughts. My boyfriend broke things of 2 weeks ago because I was projecting fear and insecurity. 1 week later, we got back together. Is there more to this? Oh, there you are. Okay. But he keeps being cold and distant, and I keep doing self-imagining. So, I mean, the one real important question kind of comes to mind. You don't have to answer it because it's sort of a public forum. But Monica, if it's, I mean, if you hurt this individual, that would kind of factor into his coldness, right? And I'm assuming maybe there's some healing. I've talked about what astral letters, so you can do a search on my channel. I talked through it. It's a really easy thing to do, but it's pretty powerful. A lot of people have talked about that, and it's just great. I didn't invent this, by the way. It's something I learned long time ago by one of my spiritual teachers. So it's something I pass along because I think it's super powerful. So they're astral letters. They help you if you got to erase things or remove essentially karma between people. It's kind of what they came from, was a very deep karmic kind of level. So when it's got a really neat cleansing ability with it. It's fantastic. And of course, meditation and all that good stuff. That being said, I think all things are about imagining the outcome, right? So if you guys still maybe have some issues that you're trying to resolve, but you've manifested them back together again, sort of an example how sometimes either A, things can happen a little too quickly and we're not quite ready for it, or B, this is just part of that process, right? You guys need to come to terms. You need to forgive. You need to kind of let this stuff go and really kind of appreciate and enjoy, right, where you are with that. So I think that's a factor that needs to come into play. Just saying. Okay. Hope that helps. I'm just trying to catch up where we are. Okay. Crazy manifester. Why do we keep on attracting abusive people? You've asked this before. I remember this question. What should mindset be to stop this? Again, I'm not a psychologist for sure, but I have, studied a lot of stuff with people. And one thing that's interesting is abusive people. Typically, there is something that comes out about us, some sort of historic. I mean, there would be a lot of questions. I think, I don't know if I said this as an answer, or at least this is what I was thinking in my head, because I very much remember this question. A lot of it's going to come down to what happened to you as a child. These would be some of the questions I would have. I would wonder if there's anger issues around something where maybe you're angry, or you have a belief around a certain aspect about men. All men are something this way. I mean, if you can complete that sentence, that's a good place to start. Like, all men are, and whatever pops out is probably a big part of where that deep-seated aspect comes from. This is kind of a deep wound, most likely, and I'm not 100% sure where and what. And, obviously a public forum might not be the place to acknowledge that or tell everyone else. But what I'm suggesting, and what I think would make the biggest difference, is you've got to identify, what is the thing inside myself right now that is creating this pain? What is the thing? What is it that's hurt? What part of the little girl in me, right, is hurting right now? And kind of look at that. And that maybe you need to forgive. Maybe there's just an issue of remembering. Maybe it's been blocked. And because of that blockage, there's some pent up stuff that maybe you're not aware of. Like, again, having to resolve and heal these things and let them go is really, from what I understand, again, I'm not a psychologist, but from what I understand, or psychiatrist, from what I understand, it is where we let go of those things that we finally have that freedom, that sense of freedom anyways, of that issue kind of being gone. So there's probably something in there. It may not be readily viewable to you. That doesn't mean it's not there, because if there's a pattern in any of our lives, a pattern at all, if something keeps happening, there's something we keep doing. And if we want to stop that something, we've got to figure out, what is it that I'm doing? Again, what are you asking for? What do you keep saying? It's some belief you have. It's deep. And those things, when you can finally resolve those, it's like a sense of freedom, man. You like grow a pair of wings and just rah, right? I've done the Eagles sounds and they do it horribly, right? But anyway. All right. So manifested my Nina. I'm to you. Yeah. Nina. All right. Manifested my SP back, but it keeps returning to the third party. And no matter what I do, I can't manifest her away. Feeling frustrated. Any advice? First off, just kind of by the tone I'm seeing within your word choice, maybe. Again, don't know you as a person. It's always fun to talk to people because, like, within a short period of time, you can always figure out, hey, wow, this is what's going on. But just that being said, it sounds like there's some concerns from your side about whether this is possible, or whether you're good enough, or whether this other person's maybe better. There might be some self-worth issues that maybe are kind of into play. Maybe this girl is perceived as maybe more attractive or something. I don't know, just throwing stuff out there, seeing what sticks, right? But any number of things sometimes can put us into that funk where we doubt ourselves, where we don't believe we've got this nailed down. And really, it's that disbelief that starts to yank at it. It starts to be, it's like that in a sweater, right? And you got that one string that's out, and you start pulling on it, and pretty soon, oh my God, the entire sweater's gone, right? Bad things can happen when tugging on those things like that. So sometimes it's important to really, again, try to look at where you're at. Ultimately, you should know this is yours. And if there's experiences that are happening, he's still making up his mind, but that's something he's going to choose you, right? I mean, he has to. That's how this has to play out. If your reality is yours, he has to choose you at some point. That's the only way for that reality to occur, right? So know that he does choose you at some point. So whatever reason why this is continuing, again, there's probably a pattern at work that's keeping this cycle going. And maybe it's important to stop that pattern. And when that occurs, bam, you finally get the results you're looking for. Kind of a direction, throwing it out there. Miss Brock's in here. That's awesomeness. Hello. It's cool to see you again. Lisa, you said in the video you faced your fear head on and no longer have doubt. How'd you do that? Well, a lot of people are afraid to do things. I'm just going to talk about one stupid example, but this is really an example of many of the kinds of scenarios of my mind of facing fears. And breaking up is kind of another one, but that's different. But it's in the sense of being afraid to talk to people maybe that are strangers, right? And sometimes you'll just avoid it. Like maybe your SP, someone you haven't really talked to a whole lot. People have had this example where he's going to pop into a coffee shop that I frequent. And I'm trying to attract him to just walk up to me and go, hey, stranger person, how you doing? I'm Jake, right? And like that's supposed to like happen, right? But in the reality of life, most people aren't going to walk up to a total stranger and do that, right? That's just weird, especially if you're already partially attracted to him, which you may be in this case, right? Because you've been putting all this manifesting energy on it, right? So now all of a sudden you got this great energy and he keeps showing up day after day and he'll look at you even and nod and you nod back. But like maybe one day you got to face that fear of, I don't know, maybe he'll think I'm weird or whatever the fear is and go, hey, what's up? How you doing? You doing good? Or maybe when he's getting his cream and sugar, you're over there stirring yours going, hey, weather's nice, right? And he just, right, whatever. Oh, yeah. So all of a sudden now you're in a discussion because you faced that fear. So many of us, it's that thing that scares us about what our manifestation is. In my mind, so here's the other side of how I do it too. Just maybe this helps as well. What is it that I'm afraid of? I don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about it, obviously, because in my mind, what I'm focusing on is what I'm creating, right? But I want to understand this within myself, so it's worth the time. So maybe I'm afraid, I'm trying to manifest my SP. Maybe I'm afraid, ultimately, that they're not the one. I'm just going to throw out one that I'm sure a lot of us have asked this question. I'm not saying it is or isn't. I think it's your decision if they're the one. But maybe that's the question I am facing. Are they the one? So what I do is I imagine a life without them. And I go down and I imagine a few days. I imagine what it's like. I imagine what I would be doing. I'd imagine what that existence is like. And I see how I feel. I did a video about this. I see how that feels. And if it feels good in my stomach, generally, or in my heart, you're either going to feel it in your chest, or you're going to feel it in your stomach. If it feels good or better, okay, I kind of mark that. Then I imagine staying with them and still continuing to try to manifest this thing that maybe I'm figuring never going to happen or wherever I'm at in my mind right now. And I feel how that feels. And maybe that feels different, and it should, and it usually does. I weigh those two feelings and I go, I like this one better. That's what I'm going to do. That's what feels right. And for me, it's just an issue of paying attention to how things affect me from a spiritual level. I'm just kind of weird that way, but that really is kind of a big part of my decision-making process. If something continues to feel good, then I feel like that's what I should be doing. When it doesn't feel right, I'll detour, and maybe it'll end up feeling good again. That happens a lot. I'm telling you that it happens a lot. You'll make a right turn, and then you'll end up making a left turn, and you're like, oh, okay, no, I'm still heading there. Huh, weird. Different way to go. I didn't know that. So again, there's a lot to be said about these different avenues that happen out there that we get presented to us. All right, see if I can figure out where we are. No, Monica, you're awesome. Okay, cool. So Monica didn't hurt him, so it was just uncertain. There's other stuff going on. Yeah. That's my buddy. Baba, I love you. Let's see. Can healing chakras sort this? Yes. Again, I've talked about this. I've done chakra videos. You can search on my channel, Chakra, Chakra, or put an S on the end. The chakras are a huge part of what I think helps make you a better manifester in the big picture. You got 7 of them, at least that's the study, the one I followed. I think there's a 13 point or a 12 point. There's a few different ones out there, but the 7 is kind of the basic normal one. 7 colors, 7 chakras, 7, rainbow, just kind of works really good for physical. I think there's a higher version. Anyway, that all being said, the chakras, getting them aligned, getting them cleared, and some of the ways that things manifest in our lives, relationship issues can be. Sometimes we have a hard time seeing a future. That's a chakra thing. Typically, I have a hard time opening my heart, so I can't forgive. I can't love again. Like, the chakras are great energy place to really work on trying to heal some of the blockages within ourselves. It makes an enormous difference when you can kind of move through them all. A lot of people do go through them 1, 2, 3, 4, and usually you'll find the ones that are blocking you when you work through them in that order. Sometimes you just go straight to the one that's kind of bothering you. Depends where you're at in the whole thing. But again, yes, healing chakra is a great way to go, at least from my standpoint. I love that kind of stuff. All right. Okay, I think, yeah, there you go. Baba, this is Rohan. I think I'm saying that right. Baba, while giving gratitude, can I say, like, I am happy, grateful, successfully married back your ex-fiance. Are you just making a statement? That's awesome, dude. Totally. He's got this. Yeah, he's just making a public statement. That's good. Again, be careful when you talk about it, but this is a good forum. Most of the people in here so far seems really, really cool. I've got several signs and positive my SP is coming, but after 6 months, I'm questioning if he's really right for me. Afraid to let things go. Oh, I'm afraid the letting go is canceling my request. Your thoughts? Letting go is not so much just giving up too. The giving up aspect is very helpful as far as really demonstrating things. I'll put the one out there, and this is kind of what it helped me with. A lot of people go, are you just manifesting? Are you manifesting those signs just because you're thinking about that all the time, right? When you stop thinking about it, and you've already put a lot of energy towards it, you get out of your own way for a while, you think about other things, there's other things to think about too, always. You start to see coincidences that still really exist out there. And so sometimes that kind of get your wheel turning back in the right direction. Now, if you're trying to cut ties altogether because you're done for sure, well, that's different, right? Then just focus on someone else or something else, or try not to think about them. And when they do, just let it pass and keep focusing on whatever you're doing. But again, it depends where you're coming at from that. Letting go of forever is an interesting experience. I can attest to that based off a video I did a long time ago, Strength to Move On. It was a challenging time, and a lot of really wonderful things have happened in my life, and some other interesting coincidences have happened as well. So all those things, I don't believe in coincidences for you out there that don't maybe listen to me as much. I use the word as a joke, but it's a funny one for that. Miss Brock. Oh yeah, cool. You're all in it. I love it. Let's see. Little Star, hi, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a little bit. Can you talk about once everything is in alignment and you have reached the state of allowing, this is where I finally am after years of hard work, and now I'm happier than ever. Okay, I guess that's kind of what I was sort of just chatting about a little bit. But yeah, when you finally get to that place where you have accepted that things are exactly as they should be, happening perfectly. I mean, really, it is kind of as lame as that might sound. Like, I don't have it yet. You've so gotten past that aspect of whether you have it, whether you don't. It's more of everything's just groovy in life. It happens in a really perfect, neat kind of fashion. Life does just work out. It does. When we finally stop trying to control, it's actually my video that's coming out tomorrow. When we finally stop trying to control everything and just let it happen, it's an enormous difference in the process. And you feel differently. It changes the entire game. And that's really where that allowing comes from, is you're always open and embracing. And when you put it out there and I say, this is what's going to happen, I know it is. I don't question it. I've seen it happen 12, 100 times, doesn't matter, a whole bunch of times. So you get to that place where you feel very at peace. And maybe some of you are like, how do you do that? How do you do that? Well, it's through this sense of accepting that this all works. And a lot of us are still fighting the process. A lot of us are still questioning whether it's true or not. And that's okay. Wherever you're at in this belief cycle is perfect in my mind. Perfect. And you're growing to wherever you're supposed to grow, and you're going to change to whatever you're supposed to change to. You're doing it perfectly. This is also part of the allowing process. People are who they should be right now. It's not for us to change other people. It's for us to be an example, a shining star. We're supposed to be an example to others. And that is really the best way you can change the world, is through what you're doing, what you're being, how you're being. So I don't know. I think that's way probably different than maybe what you're asking. Not sure. And all the Neville stuff. Yeah. So you can read what Little Star's talking about. It's a bunch of Neville action. Hey, Dan, you are blanks. We should visualize every day and let it go after. Yeah. Once we got to, I agree with that. Derek. Yeah. He says it perfectly. I think really when you finally visualize it, maybe this is where we'll cut it. I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to keep this thing going for too terribly long. Oh, we're almost at 30 minutes. Cool. This new window's got a timer on it. But yeah, he's talking about how really you visualize it until you've got such a clear picture, such a clear image of the day, like it's as real as it can be, even if you can pull in the other senses, right? I can smell it. Like I can smell the ocean breeze. Like it's real at that point. You're done. You've done it. Congrats. Next, like what's the next cool thing? Do you want to imagine even further out? Do you want to imagine maybe another scene of this particular movie that you're creating? It's all up to you. What we spend our time thinking about is totally up to you. There's no right or wrong. It's just, from my standpoint, the only time I ever say something's right or wrong in the scope of what someone's doing is if they're telling me I want to be with so-and-so, but they keep telling me they hate them. I'm going to say, well, that's probably not the right direction to go. I would try to maybe change this hatred that I have for this individual that I love. So it's those kinds of things. Sometimes maybe it's forgiveness. Sometimes it's whatever, but it's a great question you asked. You always pleasure. You guys are the best. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you guys, like this kind of stuff. The live ones are, man, I was so nervous. It's funny. I'll get nervous for pre-recording, but it's like, oh, you're about to go live. And there's a chunk of people here, but I hope you guys dug it. Going out with a cool song from Matchbox 20. And it's a snippet of a song nonetheless. It's called Parade. It's right here on Dan Radio Style.
Oh no, there's so much